Good morning, everybody, with the second webinar on the SkillSea results. My name is Alko Weka. I'm the technical project coordinator of this project and the chair of today. The EU-funded SkillSea project is launched with the aim to support the maritime professionals in obtaining key digital, green skills and soft management skills in their rapid changingly maritime labor market. What we have done so far is finding gaps. From those gaps, we made educational packages. We validated those packages with the maritime industry, and we developed tools to measure implementation and impact in the future. And we tried to disseminate these materials, and this webinar is one of the dissemination materials to show you the green skills and digital skills educational package that has been developed. So later on, this SkillSea will turn out into a SkillSea knowledge hub, where we try to keep the wheel I just described above, keep it on turning. So maybe in the future you will join this hub. This webinar today is on the explanation on green skills 1 and digital skills 2, which means there is also a green skills 2 and a digital skills 1. That will come later in one of our sessions in the future. On the 23rd of February, this session will be done again for the ones who missed it. So if you have a friend or a colleague, you say, this was interesting, just let them know that there is a second version coming. For now, I'm happy to introduce the speakers today. If you have any questions, put them in the question and answer chat, and we will look at it and act accordingly. Today, we will have Dan Herring, a PhD student of the Tallinn University of Technology, who will talk later about digital skills, but we will start with Alex Barlow, program leader in the School of Maritime of Blackpool and Flight College, who will take you to the content of the Green Skills 1 module. Alex, the floor is for you.
Thank you very much, Alko, for your introduction, and I'd like to add my thanks to as well to those that you've already given to the people who will be watching this. And as Alko said, my name's Alex Barlow. I teach in the UK, and that I was closely involved in piloting the Green Skills 1 package with our students. And the question which I sort of focused this short talk around is how you can benefit from the Green Skills 1 package. And to address that, I broke it down into 4 key problems, or 4 key questions. What was the problem? What was the solution? What was our experience? And how I think you can also benefit. And starting to put a little bit of a starting point to where this problem is coming from, that ask you maybe to take a second and think about what words you associate with a career at sea. Maybe some of you have been at sea. What comes to mind for you? Maybe some of you manage ships. What do you think about when you think about a career at sea? And for a lot of people who've been in the industry or just coming into the industry, they might think of things like tradition or adventure. But I wonder whether they also think of things like science, technology, engineering, mathematics, digital transformation, environmental protection. And that for a lot of seafarers, these might not be concepts that they naturally think about when they think about a career at sea, but those are nonetheless the skills that industry is now looking for. And particularly thinking about green skills, that it's particularly going to be relevant for your companies, for your students, because despite shipping being one of the cleanest modes of transport, it's also a big source of marine pollution and a big contributor to global pollution overall. And with the maritime ecosystem being so important for everyone, both as a source of food, a dominating environment in coastal areas where 60% of global population lives, the consequences for the environment of all of the ecosystems, and the general impact of oceans on the climate. It's something that that none of us in the maritime industry can afford to hope that other people are going to deal with. And at Fleetwood Nautical Campus in England, where I teach, we've trained seafarers for over 125 years, and it's not unusual to see alumni of the organisation come back to help train the next generation of seafarers, and it's really good for us. We're really lucky to have these long experienced seafarers wanting to give back to an industry that gave them a lifelong career. So why then are you may be asking, am I saying that's a problem? Well, what we find is that often the traditional skills that these long experienced seafarers have acquired over the course of 30, 40, 50 years at sea might not equip them with the skills needed for the 21st century seafaring. And so this was the problem that Green Skills 1 package was looking in part to address. And these so that it was presenting us with the high-level green skills for seafarers, with a real focus on decarbonisation. The educational package was aimed at seafarers with around 6 months of maritime education or sea experience, as well as equivalent shore-based employment experience. And in approaching this problem of trying to think about teaching green skills to new entrants to the industry, again, maybe put yourself in the position that of someone who's got to teach new entrants to the maritime industry or to your companies about the maritime industry's decarbonisation agenda. How would you decide which bits you needed to focus on and which bits you would pick as the most important elements? And I'll be absolutely honest with you, a year ago, I wouldn't have known where to begin. That I'm not a specialist in green skills. My background was being a deck officer and then going on to teach general maritime education and training, so no specialist in green skills. And I think that's part of what made me a good candidate to be involved with the piloting. And that in that respect, at Fleetwood Nautical Campus, we were lucky enough to be involved with piloting this Green Skills 1 educational package. And at the heart of that EP was the toolbox. And that's really what we used to design the course that we delivered to our students. And that toolbox includes a course specification with information about the learning outcomes, the objectives, the assessment strategy, the academic level at which the students should be coming into the program at. It also has an outline of how the program should run. And it also shows a model of constructive alignment with how the course can go from that course specification through to delivery and onwards to assessment. And for those of you in maritime education and training, that's maybe something that you live and breathe. But maybe for our partners who were thinking of delivering this in industry, you may find that to be a really helpful tool to understand the education process. It includes some sample lesson plans and sample lesson material, and it has direction to the latest research and online materials that informed the development of that toolbox. So what did that look like for us? Well, I wanted to give you a little bit of a sample of the sort of coverage that we had, and that we were teaching this to cadets that were training in the UK. We also opened this up to external candidates who were interested in learning more about green skills, and so we had a real range of students, ranging from cadets with 6 months of maritime education experience and no sea experience, up to experienced mariners and chief mates looking to transfer their tickets to full officer of the watch tickets. And so we looked at the commercial and regulatory context that this Green Skills 1 exists within, looking at the projected change in emissions over time, and introducing the control that we in the maritime industry have to affect that. We considered the good news and the bad news, that it was proven to be possible that we can decouple emissions from the growing demand for maritime transport, but also that that the small steps that have been taken so far would not be enough on their own, and that really set up the background for then looking at some of the key engine and fuel technology changes, as well as some of the operational shifts that we would need to implement to meet objectives for reductions in greenhouse gases and CO2. That led us on to thinking about the IMO measures to try and reduce greenhouse gas emissions, looking at the targets that have been set, looking at the research that was ongoing, and the data collection systems and how the students would form a part of that. We looked at the measures like EEDI, EEXI, the carbon intensity indicators, and ship energy efficiency management plans. The sorts of things that the students, again, may find themselves playing an important part in contributing to. On top of these more high-level concepts, we then started getting into some of the more operational measures, thinking about what sort of fleet planning and logistics measures would be involved, and thinking about weather planning and voyage optimization. So thinking about the practical activities on board, not just switching off lights when they're not in use, and thinking about the real practical things, and the pardoning the pun, nuts and bolts of some of the technical measures. And we looked at how ships can design in energy efficiency, and that included thinking about the hull shape and propellers, efficient engine design, as well as how we actually fuel those propulsion systems, whether that's through low carbon fuels, biofuels, whether we're making better use of what our online energy production is doing with energy storage solutions, and with wind assisted technology, and looking at how that links in with renewable energy, so solar, wind, and tidal, and how we can draw on shore-based renewables when we're in port through cold ironing. From that, we then started to step back out again, looking at some of the market-based measures, thinking about how we as an industry can make pollution too expensive. So, in other words, shift the cost-benefit analysis for the companies, and think about how we can make it easier to comply and to meet those targets than it is to not meet the targets. And We looked at some of the things which have shown themselves as being popular methods that some governments have used, such as emissions trading schemes and carbon levy schemes, to try and get all areas of industry, not just the maritime industry, moving in the right direction, and thinking about how that could look and how that already does look in the maritime industry. So that was the key topics that we explored. And so what was our experience of that? Well, firstly, for us as the educators delivering it, that I just wanted to reinforce that the team that piloted this were not specialists in this field of green skills, that we were all specialists in the maritime industry, but not in this specific topic area. And so that the EP was really essential for us in knowing what the key topic areas would be to address, and the wider reading it was pointing us to was really a great frame of reference for us to engage in our own continuing professional development to get up to speed to deliver it. And secondly, I think it's also important to note that our students did not precisely meet the specified audience in the EP. And I'll come back to why I think that's really important to note at the end of my presentation. But the EP, we found it really gave us a structure to what we were doing, and it highlighted the key areas to address, the key topics to go into, and it signposted us to these latest up-to-date resources and materials, both academic sources as well as technical literature, and some of the sorts of materials that might be useful for us to share with the students to help them engage with the topic more broadly as well. So what did the students think of it? Well, the students, as I said, had a wide range of backgrounds and experiences. We did make attendance mandatory for most of the candidates, and it was in the first week of their summer holiday. So make of that what you will. But despite that hurdle of it being mandatory and during their summer holiday, and being delivered as online sessions, which I'm sure that many of you will be aware of the limitations of doing things online. But despite that, the students were engaged throughout the course, that they were engaging with all the activities we were setting. They were asking questions, they were wanting to know more. And at the end of the course, the students reported not just that they had enjoyed the course, but also that it had opened their eyes to aspects of the maritime industry that they hadn't previously considered. And that's not just the entry-level cadets, but also experienced master mariners and people who've been in the industry in different capacities for 5 to 10 years. And this was bringing them things that they would never have thought of, but nonetheless probably were impacting on them or will be impacting on them in the near future that they might not otherwise have been introduced to. And some of the aspects like data analysis, one student in the course, I think the term they used to describe all of the data that we were presenting them with in a sample exercise of data analysis, looking at data relating to fuel consumption and energy efficiency. I think the word they used was terrifying when they were looking at a spreadsheet of data, because that wasn't part of their day-to-day experience at sea. And but they said that in spite of that, that having done this green skills course, that made it a little bit less terrifying. Maybe not fully comforting, but a step in the right direction. And I think that that's really great to see from our students. So the last question, the one which is probably what you're going to be wanting to know, is how can you benefit from all this? Well, first of all, the EP is a collaboration between education and industry. So it benefits from the latest research. It benefits from the pedagogical input of those delivering education, and it's also informed by the needs and the day-to-day reality of our industry partners. Secondly, the EP is freely available to anyone, and so it's you're not paying to access the resources. It's that it's something which anyone has access to, and it's so it is designed to work in a traditional educational context. So if you're a maritime education and training establishment, then you will be able to access that. It speaks your language, and it's developed with all of the things that you would expect to find in a description of a course. But, and I think this is really important, that you can also take this and use it in the workplace. So although it uses all the things that that those of us in maritime education and training will be familiar with, I think it really puts it in a straightforward way that that those who are maybe not so familiar with educational context, so constructive alignment, the formulation of learning objectives and academic levels and things like that, that they too should be able to implement this as a training program in the workplace, so that their shore-based and seafaring colleagues will be able to engage with it. And finally, I think it's really important to highlight that this is flexible for your needs. So that I'm not going to mislead you. It isn't a benchmark of a global standard of green skills. It's informed by the needs of industry, and it's giving a model of how you could approach that. And nor is it a 100% off-the-shelf package that you take out of the box and just play to the students with no effort on your part. And that rather that it's something that that sets out a model of how you can take these aims of introducing your students or colleagues to these green skills, sets out a framework of how you can meet that, how you can set up your lessons, and then and what information you need to be looking at in order to bring yourself up to speed. And that so that I think that makes it a sustainable solution for you to be delivering for your students, and for you to be bringing yourself to that level to meet your students and your company's needs. So I'll end with this. That do you think that green skills is something that that matters for your company, for your educational context? And do your people need to know more about green skills? And if the answer to either of those questions is yes, then I'd really encourage you to take a look at downloading the Green Skills educational package, looking at the toolkit, and seeing how you can make use of this, how you can design your own learning, your own training package for your companies, for your students to make use of this as well. So thank you very much for your time, for listening to all this. I promised I wouldn't run more than my time, and I think I'm a couple of minutes inside that. So I'd like to pass over to my good colleague Dan Hearing, who will be talking to us about his experience with the Digital Skills 2 package.
Good morning. My name is Dan Hearing. I'm an early stage researcher at Taltech Estonian Maritime Academy, and I will be talking about education package Digital Skills 2. So it's about teaching cybersecurity awareness to seafarers. Okay. Shortly, the background about myself. I'm also a tech officer. I have worked in public and private sector, and finally ended up in Maritime Academy in 2017 when I came here as a director for development for a couple of years. And I also finished my master's, which was about cybersecurity awareness among Estonian ship owners. So that was the first research done in Estonia on maritime cybersecurity. And the results were so, I would say, frightening or not very good. So I decided to continue this research in my PhD studies. I'm involved in several projects, and I'm also now teaching at the Academy digitalization in shipping for masters and introduction to cybersecurity for tech officers. The university has 5 schools together: IT, engineering, science, business and governance. And the Estonian Maritime Academy joined the university in 2014. And I think it was a good step, because it allows us now to have the synergy between the maritime and different other fields. So that's why we have also started with cybersecurity in our academy, because we are closely cooperating with the School of Information Technologies. In Maritime Academy, we have study programs like navigation, ship engineering, port shipping management, waterways, master's and PhD studies. When we go now to cybersecurity, this is the screenshot taken from DNVGL. Then ships are now increasingly using the system which rely on digitization, integration and automation, and it all calls for the cyber risk management on board the ship. So we have IT on board, we have OT on board, and in many cases they are not segregated. They have their own vulnerabilities, and now they're also more and more connected to outside internet. So when we talk to the students about cyber threat on the ship, they think it's like the sea between the ship and the shore is like a firewall. So nothing doesn't touch it. So that's not true. So for example, shodan.io is the Google of the Internet of Things. So you can actually search different systems around the world where they're located. You can find the IP address. You can actually get into the system. You can see if it's protected from outside or not, if it's has still a default password and username in place. So you can actually access the systems which are on the other side of the world, or for example on the ships. What do we understand under effective cybersecurity? The strong cybersecurity is based on 3 components. It's the technology, processes, and people. And it is vital for maritime industry to focus on all those 3 components, not only on the process and technology, but in order to defeat the cyber threats, they can come from internal and from external actors. So cyber criminals usually choose the easiest way to penetrate the organization. And as we know, the human might be the weakest link in cybersecurity. So therefore, more attention should be paid to the people pillar. So it means educating and training the employees and crew members in a shipping company. So the seafarer should be more aware of the cyber risks, but it's very important also that they should be aware of their digital footprint and digital behavior in relation to cybersecurity. So the approach to cybersecurity should start with the people. And when we concentrate on the people, then we can see that currently there are no mandatory cybersecurity education training available for maritime sector, and consequently the seafarers lack the knowledge and skills to handle the cyber incidents on board the ship and also in their personal life. And there's no general requirements to carry IT specialists on board the ships. So we do know what kind of training is needed for IT specialists, but we are struggling with the knowledge of what kind of training we should give to seafarers in order to find the balance that they understand the topic. It would stick with them, this knowledge, what they will receive, and it would be practically usable on board the ship. I have been investigating the Dunning-Kruger effect and coming up with a term of level of paranoia. So maybe the level of paranoia should be the part that we take in order to make sure that seafarers understand the responsibility of safe and secure behavior in cyber domain. The Dunning-Kruger effect is the type of cognitive bias in which people believe that they are smarter and more capable than they really are. So they overestimate their own skills. For example, when we talk with the students or seafarers, they know in theory, they know very well how to behave, how to, what not to do. But when we come to the practice, then they try to make shortcuts. So knowledge and behavior are different. In SkillSea project, there was a report, current skills need, reality and mapping. And we can see that in digital technologies, there is a serious skill deficiencies. And this digital technologies also includes cybersecurity. So what we can say is that cybersecurity has been overlooked by the maritime industry. Now, in 2019, by a report was over 82% of the shipping companies already provide internet on board the ships. So it means seafarers have access to the internet. They have also identified that the provision of free internet access is one of the most significant contributions that the company can do to improve the mental health and well-being on board. But this is also creating threats for the company. The IMO requirements, they say that the ships should have cyber risk management set in place on the ship in a safety management system. But there are no requirements for competence in cybersecurity awareness for seafarers. And currently STCW doesn't address those skills. When we come to the educational package of digital skills, then following subjects are covered by the package. Cybersecurity in general, maritime cybersecurity, the risk, the threats, IT, OT vulnerabilities, transformation in current shipping industry, legislation, which is covering the cybersecurity. It can be EU, it's IMO resolutions, industry guidelines, and it can be also local set of regulations. Then it's maritime cyber risk management process, key elements, best practices, and cyber attacks in the shipping industry. What has actually happened, the analysis, case studies, but I would say the incidents, what we know could be only the tip of the iceberg, because the reporting of cyber incidents is not very popular in the maritime industry, I would say so. So the goal of the educational package is to make seafarers aware of new and existing threats in cyber domain, introduce the measures for risk assessment and mitigation. And I think one of the most important things is how the seafarers can contribute with their better behavior and good habits for safer and secure shipping in this interconnected world. The target group is maritime professionals, both on board the ship and ashore. Both sides should know what are the threats. Not only the Chief Information Security Officer at sea, so probably many shipping companies don't have it yet, but it will come probably in the nearest future. So they all should know what can happen with their bad behavior. The estimated duration of the course, contact hours, is indicatively 24 hours. There's a suggestion that they can be delivered during 3 working days, which is distributed over 4 weeks, but it depends on the school how they like to organize this, how much they have time, the lectures available, the students, etc. And also 21 hours are suggested for independent learning and research. When we come to the piloting at Caltech Estonian Maritime Academy, then we did this last year in November, December. We had 38 students, second-year tech cadets, so they were kind of forced volunteers. In addition to their everyday studies, they also attended this pilot course. We did approximately 15 hours in over 4 weeks on Mondays. There was a time restriction, I would say, because I was traveling. I had other projects, but we managed to do that. And they also had around 4 hours of independent work. So reading the guidelines, preparing for the class, watching some videos from my previous lectures related to cybersecurity. We did it online via Teams, and I also created a Moodle platform for that, so they can access the documentation and materials. And we had this time 1 lecture, so I was doing it by myself. The learning outcomes of this educational package, so it's divided into 3 sections: understand the cybersecurity terms, identify main cyber risk and threats, recognize the potential risks, etc., etc. After the piloting, me and Alex, we discussed the learning outcomes, and I think we made some suggestion how to change them more practicable. And the content of the educational package. Each module has more detailed information about the lessons, learning outcomes, teaching methods, assessments, and different case examples. The education package also includes quite comprehensive list of references to videos, websites, reports, and published articles that can be used during the classes. And this all makes the preparation of the lessons easier for the lecturer. It's quite good to see that. Of course, if cybersecurity is a new field for the lecturer, it takes longer time to put their own lectures together. I also see that this course needs to be interesting for the students, challenging, and without taking away the motivation to study. So it should be understandable for them. And precisely because of its complexity and the students' background, because they don't have the IT background. For example, our students had only one student had some experience with programming Python, but no Linux, for example. So very basic IT knowledge. So we have to take into account their background, knowledge and skills. The same applies to when we start teaching the professional seafarers. First, you have to understand what they know, and then you can set up the lectures. After 1.5 months, end of January, I made a quick questionnaire for the students. So what do you remember from the SkillSea cybersecurity course? So it's in Estonian, but let's say if I translate it, they mark here, change the passwords. Public Wi-Fi is 10 euros. IMO instruments, secure passwords, cameras in Italy. So I actually presented them through Shodan.io how it's possible to access home cameras in Italy, for example, how you can check, how you can see other people's backyard. Change passwords, white hats, virus protection, USB sticks, don't use them. Log out when you leave your computer, crypting, etc. GPS issues. So it was good. They remembered many things. I hope they also changed their habits for better. And we also asked feedback from the students right after the course. That's one of the forms. Some response are in English, some are in Estonian, so they all liked it. They want to know more, what to do when you get hacked, some very practical things. That would be the next step. What we do in Maritime Academies, because it's also the topic of my PhD research. So this year from January, we have now second course on Introduction to Cybersecurity for tech officers. So I have again 38 students. So we do theory, we have homework, we do games. There are certain card games developed. We do practical things, we do demonstrations, and we have guest lecturers. This is something I see could be also applied to SkillSea Digital Skills 2 program, that you have guest lecturers from the field, who are professionals, either from IT or maritime. They can give good inside information about how things really work and what kind of incidents there are and how to prevent them. For example, tomorrow I have a class and I will have a experienced captain to come to the students, to talk to the students about their cyber incidents and what they do on the ship to reduce the cyber risks. So we have different topics. We have, because NATO CCT-COE, Center of Excellence of Cybersecurity, is also located in Tallinn, so it's very good to go and visit and see how they actually develop the cyber exercises, develop the preventative measures for cyber attacks. This is some things we also, the books, for example, which we used for SkillSea course, and on the table you see different tools that can be used for demonstrating the vulnerabilities of the systems and how hackers work. for example, but there are also useful things like Logilink USB keys, which you can plug into the computer and close up the USB port so no one can access it. And I call it USB condoms, for example, which you can use for charging your phone without exchanging the data between the source and your device. So this is all what can be used also for teaching and digital skills too. And for conclusion, the maritime sector is increasingly structured around online and automated systems. This is happening in ports, in shipping, offshore infrastructure, digital commercial transactions. So it means that the better approach is needed for cybersecurity. With the IMO resolution and cyber risk management on board ships, the seafarers need to be better educated, and they need to have better understanding of cyber hygiene and incident prevention. Maintaining effective cybersecurity is not easy. It requires collaboration, top-down approach that engage senior management combined with bottom-up approaches, working with other staff. For example, with my students, I asked, when will you change your habits for better if you are in a cyber domain? One of the replies was that when I become a senior management person, then I will change my habits. Then I will behave more secure. But that shouldn't be the case. It should be different. There should be a different approach. So in collaboration with the industry, we can learn about real life incidents and education and the education needs of future maritime professionals. And of course, the main question that arises is how we can achieve sustainable behavior and to change that and to make sure that in the future there will be less cyber incidents on board ships. So I think the SkillSea package is very good for this first steps to take both in academia, in the companies, to start changing this behavior in using the internet and devices. And we also do projects like Marisybera here in the Maritime Academy. We are trying to establish a multidisciplinary center for maritime cybersecurity and to take the steps further and further. And thank you. That's all.
Thank you very much, Dan and Alex. I don't see any question in the question and answer, but that doesn't mean there is no question. So maybe somebody has a question, then show it now. What I like to state, and I put it in the question and answers, if you send me a mail, I will send you the materials of Green Skills 1. The digital skills are not fully ready yet. They will come shortly, but they are not fully ready. We are still in processing of all the feedback of all the work Dan has done. So you have to wait a little bit for that, but at least yeah, I found again on Green Skills everybody was pretty connected, I must say, but then it's still we were searching how to do it, as Alex explained. But on the digital skills, I'm lost myself a bit. So yeah, I think it's a difficult subject, and I think this proves that European connection and European working together between the medical training institutes and the industry is paying off in searching for materials in such a new development and a new topic, which is already also in international shipping management needed. So thank you. If there are no more questions, I thank you very much for your attendance, being here, and I hope you can use it. And we will have more of these explanations online, more webinars on other packages we have, Digital Skills 2 and Digital Skills 1. We have one on leadership, there is one on STEM and one on entrepreneurial skills. So more to come, so stay focused and watch our website, as you can see here on the screen. Thank you, bye-bye.